What? What's going on? No matter how many times I tried, I couldn't unlock the apartment door. I had just returned home from a business trip and found myself completely locked out. Even when I tried to contact my husband, who should have been home, there was no response. Peeking through the gap in the door, I saw that the apartment was empty. I couldn't have gotten the wrong place. So why? Where are my things? Where has my husband disappeared to? In a panic, I headed to my in-laws' houses, and there he was. As soon as I arrived, he told me, "Who are you?" LOL. What? I was speechless, and my husband was smirking triumphantly. What awaited me was an unimaginable outcome. My name is Alice Smith, 32 years old. I'm a working wife living with my husband. This year marks the 3rd year of my marriage with John. He was originally a colleague at the company, and we were fiercely competitive. He was my best rival and my greatest supporter at the same time. It didn't take long for us to start dating, and we got engaged after a year of dating. However, I had one concern about getting married. It was something John brought up just before we were about to get married. Alice, I'm thinking of quitting my jobs after we get married. What? Quit your job? Why would you? I've actually been thinking about this for a while. I want to start my own company, using my past experiences. Your own company? Yeah, I want to do something bigger by starting my own business. Please give me this opportunity to try, and I will give it my all, he pleaded, and I was at a loss. While it was evident that he was being earnest, I didn't know what to do. As his greatest supporter, I wanted to encourage him to follow his dreams. But the idea of quitting his job to start a business made me very uneasy. Now that we were married, I was hoping we could have children eventually. Under such circumstances, did we really need to give up our stable life? That's what I thought, but I couldn't clearly tell him my true feelings. In the end, without being able to tell him how I felt, he quit his job as soon as we got married. He used all his savings to start a temp agency. My male colleagues said things like, "Wow, Alice, that's impressive. And it must feel great to have your husband as the CEO, right?" But that wasn't the case at all. In fact, the female colleagues seemed to share my feelings, and my close friend Rachel said in exasperation, "Starting a business right after getting married is way too risky." You're right, Rachel. I agreed with her. I didn't like it either, but I couldn't say it out loud. Alice, you're too kind, LOL. But be careful, okay? John tends to dive in headfirst on the spur of the moment. Yeah, I know. I've seen him make mistakes because of that when we work together. Exactly. It must be tough, but as his former colleague and wife, you have to keep an eye on him. Yeah, you're right. I'll try to check up on his company regularly and do what I can. Even so, I've only ever done my current job, so starting a business is a completely unknown world to me. Why did my husband suddenly decide to start a business? And why a temp agency of all things? When I asked, he never gave a clear answer. Though he started the company, it seemed he hadn't planned things out properly. He hired several employees right from the start, but with not much work coming in, the staffing costs were skyrocketing. In this day and age, there are countless employment agencies online. Trying to run one with in-person services is, frankly, reckless. He wasn't bad at his job when we worked together, but as soon as he left the company, his ideas started to dry up. Predictably, the company quickly ran out of funds, and employees began to quit one by one. Finally, when he couldn't pay their salaries, he came to me. "Alice, I'm sorry, but can you lend me just $20,000? $20,000? And just $20,000? Do you know how much money that is?" "I know, but I have no choice, right? I need to pay the employees." "Maybe so, but it's not my problem." "Are you really going to be that irresponsible as my wife?" "What? You married me and vowed to stick with me for life, right? So the least you could do is help me out when I'm in trouble." He spoke as if he was not to blame for it all. I couldn't say anything in the face of his cold, contemptuous gaze. For the next few days, he kept asking me for the $20,000, with his own mix of insults added in. "It's because you didn't support me as a wife that things turned out like this. In reality, I was supposed to successfully expand the company. This is all your fault. You need to cover the financial shortfall." I was berated daily, and sometimes even lightly hit. Those days continued, and I started to wonder if it really was my fault. A year after we got married, his company was on the brink of bankruptcy. By then, my savings had significantly dwindled, and almost all the money I had saved when I was single had gone into his company. Even so, he didn't choose to close the company and instead turned to his parents for help. His father was an ordinary white-collar worker and his mother a housewife, so they weren't well off. But seeing John so desperate, they couldn't just ignore him. In the end, they borrowed money with their house as collateral and gave it to John. When I heard this, even I was shocked. No matter how much you care about your son, who would go this far? If John's company went bankrupt, his parents would lose their home. My fears were right on target, and within just 6 months, his company went under. There was no money left, only debt. This marked the beginning of John's decline in motivation to work. He started living a lazy life, lounging around the houses every day. I couldn't stand it any longer and had to speak up several times. John, I'm sorry, but we can't afford this. I don't have any savings left either, so you need to work. Huh? How heartless can you be? My company's gone under, and I'm feeling down. This isn't the time to say that. We need to pay back your parents too. They'll be fine, lol. They put up the house as collateral. Do you understand what that means? If we don't pay back the loan, your parents will lose their home. It's not our problem, lol. Besides, my parents don't have much time left anyway. Might as well let them help us out at the end. I can't believe you'd say that. I never thought you were like this. From that point, our marriage started to fall apart. It's been about 6 months since his company went under, and he still shows no signs of looking for a job, now doing day labor jobs once a week. Of course, he doesn't contribute any money to the household and spends it all on himself. I'm living off my dwindling savings, cutting back wherever I can. One day, while on break at work, I got a call from my mill. Oh, Alice, sorry to call you out of the blue, but I need to talk to you about something. Hello, what's going on? Well, can you lend us some money? What? I know it's wrong to ask you this, but if we can't repay the loan by the end of this month, we'll lose our house. It seemed my worst fears were about to come true. Though shaken, I told her, have you talked to John about this? Of course I did, but he said, I don't have any money. If losing the house is all it takes, then that's fine. What? He really said that? What should we do, Alice? At this rate, we'll lose our home. Please calm down. I have an idea. After ending the call with my mill, I called my father, who lives back home. He picked up right away. Oh, Dad, it's Alice. Oh, it's been a while. How are you? I'm doing well, but I'm in a bit of trouble. Trouble? What happened? John's company went bankrupt, and now his parents are about to lose their house because of it. What? How did that happen? Well, I explained the situation, and my father immediately offered financial help. Despite John being at fault, my father didn't blame him, saying, he's the man you chose. My father is actually quite wealthy. Officially, he's just a real estate manager, but he actually owns multiple properties. The income coming in from collecting rent alone is substantial, so I've never lived with worries before marriage. However, I decided to become independent when I got my job, stopped accepting any financial support, and have worked hard ever since. My husband had ruined all of that. I felt bad asking my father for help, but I had no choice if I wanted to save my in-laws. I asked my father to keep this a secret from John, and I transferred the money to my in-laws. Why didn't I tell John? I had only told him my father was in real estate. I was worried that if John knew my father had money, he'd start asking for it. If he started relying on my father's money and demanding more from me, it'll be over for us. If we were going to stay together, I didn't want to grow to hate my husband. For that reason, I needed to keep my father's wealth a secret. To avoid making both my parents and my in-laws sad, I chose to continue keeping up our relationship. When I told my mill about my father's help, she said, I understand. But are you sure? Your father and you are the only reasons John is being saved. It's fine. I don't want to cause any more trouble. Okay, if you say so, I'll do as you say. It might take time, but we'll pay back the money we borrowed from your father. I'll help with that too. Please don't worry too much. Thank you, Alice. You've really saved us. Her voice trembled on the phone. Knowing how desperate she was, I was glad to help. Meanwhile, John's behavior continued to worsen. Not long ago, he just lounged around at home, but now he's out of the house more often. When I ask what he's doing, he just says, shut up, or it's none of your business. Yet, He always demands money for groceries. One day, I had to go on a business trip. I was worried about leaving home for 3 days, but I also felt a bit relieved. 3 days without having to see my husband. I married him because I loved him, but at some point, being in the same room as him had become unbearable. 3 days later, I returned from my trip. Walking heavily from the airport, I headed home. Normally, you'd be eager to get home, but the thought of facing John again made me dread it. When I arrived and inserted my key into the lock, something felt off. What's going on? No matter how many times I tried, I couldn't unlock the apartment door. I tried calling John, but there was no response, and it seemed I was completely locked out. What should I do? If John isn't home, I can't get inside. And that wasn't all. Peeking through the door gap, I saw that the apartment was empty. I couldn't have the wrong place, so why? Where are my things? Where has my husband disappeared to? In a panic, I forgot to contact the management company and immediately called my parents, but they didn't answer either. Maybe they were out, so I decided to wait at my in-laws' place while I was there, give them the souvenirs I had bought. When I arrived at my in-laws, there he was. John, what are you doing here? My male spoke up first. He showed up suddenly, asking to stay for a few days. What? John, what's going on? I went home and the key didn't work. John started laughing and looked down at me. Who are you? LOL. What? He smirked triumphantly as I stood speechless, desperately trying to continue the conversation. I finally managed to speak. What are you talking about, John? And the house key. Of course it didn't work. I moved out of that place, LOL. What? Oh, and we're divorced, LOL. We're strangers now. I have a new girlfriend, so get lost, LOL. A new girlfriend? In my days, my husband shoved his phone screen in my face. There he was, hugging a young woman and smiling happily. At that moment, everything felt pointless, and I didn't want to think anymore. Oh, I give up. This marriage was over long ago. As I sank to the ground, John looked down at me, grinning. Right after that, there was a dull thud as John collapsed to the floor. My mill had punched him. What the? Mom, how could you? How could you do this? What the hell? What did I do? I just left a useless wife for a new girlfriend. My mill started trembling, her face turning red, and she asked him, do you really not know? Know what? Everything up until now, you owe everything to Alice. Huh? Because of your startup business, we almost lost this house, which was put up as collateral. Alice asked her father for help, and he lent us the money. What? My Phil did? John, clearly shocked by the revelation, stood there frozen. My mill continued her tirade without mercy. And yet you, how much trouble do you have to cause others to be satisfied? Alice even helped us with the repayments. That's not possible. Alice did all that for me? You betrayed such a wonderful person. Instead of fooling around with another woman, why don't you work a little? Aren't you ashamed to cause trouble for your wife and parents at your age? You're no longer my son. Get out of here right now and pay back every cent of the debt yourself. No, Mom. John, devastated by her words, started crying and begged. As his father grabbed his arm and dragged him away, John turned to me for help. Alice, I was wrong. I'm sorry. Please do something. Do something? Just pay off my debt, then we can start over as a couple. Please. You already filed for divorce, right? Well, yes, but we can just file for marriage again. His incoherent plea was met with my coldest stare yet. Then, as if to vent all my pent-up resentment, I made myself clear. Are you kidding me? We can just file for marriage again? How selfish can you be? I worked so hard to support you. And you betrayed not just me, but your own parents too. And you even cheated on me. No, it's not like that. I'll break up with her, so I don't care about that. Your apology means nothing. I was a fool for trying to help you. Go ahead and marry that other woman if you want, but I will never forgive you. Crawl through the depths of dead hell for the rest of your life. Alice, wait, desperately pleading. John was thrown out by my Phil. He locked the door behind him, banning John from the house. Afterward, I demanded repayment of all the money I had lent to John through a lawyer. Given the debt from his failed business, the total amount was staggering. John was also disowned by his parents and removed from their will. This meant that if something happened to his parents, he wouldn't inherit anything. As a result, John lost both his home and anyone he could rely on. Even his girlfriend left him, having had enough. Serves him right. This is the end for the ex-husband who indulged in his selfishness. As for me, I moved back in with my parents after the divorce. My parents were concerned for me, but to be honest, I felt no regret. I had my job, and my beloved family was healthy and by my side. That was more than enough happiness for me. I realized that I wanted to live my life to the fullest for the people who truly cared about me.